Jake stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie, feeling hopeful. Today was an important day, the kind that could change everything. The little coffee shop on the corner bustled with energy as he entered, his heart racing with both excitement and nerves. He spotted Jenna sitting at their usual table, her expression instantly shifting when she caught sight of him. She snickered, her voice dripping with mockery. Jake felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him. He had chosen this outfit carefully, his best shirt, a slightly worn blazer, and new shoes he had saved for this moment. To him, he looked sharp, but in her eyes he saw only judgment. "Come on, it's business casual," he replied, trying to sound confident. "Oh really?" She laughed, a bright ringing sound that drew the gaze of nearby customers. The laughter stung, and he tried to shrug it off, pretending he wasn't affected. But inside, a storm brewed. Jenna was the kind of person everyone wanted to impress, yet here she was, shredding his confidence like paper. As the barista called out orders, Jake ordered his usual black coffee. They settled into light chatter, but her comments hung in the air like a cloud he couldn't shake off. Each sip turned bitter as he fought the embarrassment clenching his stomach. "Need to dress to impress, you know." Jenna continued, leaning back, a sly smile creeping across her face. "Thanks for the fashion advice, Jenna," he said, forcing a laugh that felt unnatural. He suddenly felt his phone buzz in his pocket. It was an unfamiliar number, but he answered anyway, hoping it was good news. "Hi," a cheerful voice asked from the other end. "Yup, it's me," he replied, feeling a hint of nervous excitement and curiosity. "Fantastic, this is Sarah from Tech Innovators." His heart soared. This could change everything, a chance to step into his dream job. "Oh wow," he exclaimed before realizing Jenna was still sitting across from him, her arms crossed, a smug grin plastered on her face. She teased, her tone laced with sarcasm. Jake said, the excitement filling his voice. "Oh really?" She rolled her eyes, clearly not interested. "Yes." Jake couldn't contain his smile, a spark of confidence igniting inside him. "Actually," he said, feeling a surge of boldness, "I'll put the call on speaker." Jenna raised an eyebrow, the smirk on her face fading as he pressed the speaker button. Jake continued, looking directly at her. "Hi there, I'm so glad to connect with you, Jake," Sarah said enthusiastically. Jake could feel Jenna's eyes widen with surprise. "First, let me just say that we were all very impressed with your qualifications. Your experience in project management really stood out." Jake beamed, his earlier embarrassment fading away. "Thank you so much, that means a lot," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Now if you are available, we'd love to see you in person." Jake said, feeling a warmth spread through him, a feeling of validation. As the conversation continued, Jenna's demeanor shifted. A few moments later, as Sarah detailed the next steps and what to expect in the interview, he caught a glimpse of something in Jenna's eyes. Was it admiration or envy? After hanging up, he turned to Jenna, who was now silent. "Wow," she said, but it didn't sound genuine. "Thanks," he replied, feeling the surge of pride within him. "I was just teasing, you know that," she said, backpedaling as she fiddled with her coffee cup. "Teasing or not, sometimes words can sting more than you realize. It's easy to judge when you're on the outside looking in," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. Her expression shifted, a moment of vulnerability crossing her face. "I didn't mean to put you down. I guess I just thought, given our history, you'd be." Jake inhaled deeply, ready to speak his truth. "I didn't dress for you or anyone else, I dressed for myself." For the first time, Jenna didn't have a comeback. She sat there, looking lost in thought. "Sometimes," Jake continued, "the things we say can carry a lot of weight." Her eyes softened, and he finally saw the layers of insecurity beneath her confident bravado. "I get it, it's just. Sometimes I feel like I have to project this perfect image." Jake smiled, feeling a bridge forming between them. "We all have those moments. You can be real with me, you know." She nodded slowly, realizing how her words had affected him. "Thanks for letting me know. I'll try to be better." "Exactly, it's tough out there," Jake admitted, feeling lighter as the burden of their earlier conversation began to dissolve. As they walked out of the coffee shop together, the usual banter had transformed into something deeper. Jake realized he didn't need to prove himself to Jenna or anyone else. "Hey," Jenna said as they hit the sidewalk, the sun shining brighter than before. "I really do want you to get this job." He stopped, looking directly into her eyes. "Thanks, Jenna." In that moment, the tide shifted. Their friendship felt renewed, even stronger, as they began to talk about his upcoming interview and the preparation he needed to do. Jenna shared tips, taunting him in playful ways that only friends can do. Instead of feeling belittled, Jake felt motivated. As they parted with encouragement and laughter, Jake realized that sometimes a little pushback from a friend can turn into a powerful motivation. What started as a moment of ridicule transformed into support and understanding, reminding him that appearances didn't matter as much as what was inside. Walking away, he felt grateful for the unexpected twist in the day, knowing that he was stepping into a new chapter of his life full of chance, potential, and perhaps even a little reconciliation. The door swung open with a sudden burst, and Jake stepped into the bustling cafe, his heart racing as he scanned the room. He dressed with care for this day, a polished look intended to impress. Yet as Jenna spotted him, her expression shifted instantly from surprise to amusement. she called, her laughter piercing through the ambient noise of steaming milk and muffled conversations. Jake's smile faltered, a surge of heat rising to his cheeks. Overhead, the soft jazz music did little to soften the sting of her mocking tone. He glanced down at his tailored shirt and crisp jeans, feeling a wave of self-doubt crash over him. "Yeah, I thought it looked good," he replied, attempting to infuse confidence into his voice. She giggled as she leaned back, crossing her arms. Her laughter echoed in his ears like a jarring alarm, and he felt the eyes of strangers turn towards him, curious about the commotion. "Okay, come on, it's not that bad," he muttered, trying to shake off the embarrassment. As they settled into the small corner table, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that Jenna had struck too deep. Her words acted like a chisel, chipping away at his previously steady confidence. He sipped his coffee, the bitter taste mirroring the knot forming in his stomach. Jenna pried, her relentless teasing digging deeper with every passing second. Jake snapped, his voice sharper than intended. "Impression, you're not going on a fashion runway." "It's a meeting," she shot back, her laughter softening into something closer to pity. At that moment, his phone buzzed, illuminating with an unknown number. A flicker of hope broke through the haze of insecurity. He answered it without thinking, desperately hoping for something good. He spoke, his voice steadier than he felt. A bright voice chimed on the other end, the upbeat tone a stark contrast to the tension lingering in the cafe. "Yes," Jake felt an unexpected excitement building inside him. "This is Sarah from Tech Innovators. We've reviewed your application and we're impressed." In that moment, the world around him faded. The buzz of the cafe, the teasing laughter, everything melted away, leaving only the sweet sound of opportunity. Wow," Jake beamed, barely believing the life-changing words. Sarah continued, her voice warm and encouraging. He replied, unable to hide the smile spreading across his face. Jenna, still seated across the table, had gone silent. The mockery in her gaze faded as the reality of the situation sank in. "Great, I'll send over the details," Sarah said excitedly. Jake exclaimed before ending the call, his heart dancing in his chest. He turned to Jenna, whose surprise was evident. Her eyes widened, and for the first time he saw something different in her expression. She said softly, almost reverently. A sense of triumph surged through him, but he couldn't help but notice how the tables had turned. Suddenly, the outfit that was once a punchline was now the outfit of a man on the brink of a new beginning. "Yeah, guess I might just surprise you after all," he shot back, a grin breaking across his face as the atmosphere shifted. "Maybe I misjudged you," Jenna said, her tone changing from mockery to genuine curiosity. "Maybe," he said with a mix of humor and seriousness. "But it's not always about what's on the outside." Jenna looked thoughtful for a moment, her previous confidence seeming to waver. "I suppose I don't always show that part of me." Jake could see the wariness in her eyes, the cracks in the facade she usually wore. "You don't have to," he said gently. The honesty embedded in his words hung heavily between them. Jenna fiddled with her coffee cup, the usual bravado fading into something more vulnerable. "I guess I thought that's how I had to be to stay ahead," she admitted quietly, pushing her hair back behind her ear. "And I thought I had to dress a certain way to be taken seriously," he countered. With a tentative smile, Jenna nodded, realizing how her words affected him. "I'm sorry for being rude, I didn't mean to put you down." She trailed off, searching for the right words. "Sometimes people make judgments without realizing how it hurts," he said softly, "but you can be genuine." Their conversation shifted from idle teasing to authentic connection. As they shared their experiences, Jake felt the weight lift off their friendship. There, amidst the coffee and laughter, a new understanding blossomed. Jenna leaned in, genuinely interested. "I want to prepare," he said, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "Okay, let's brainstorm," she encouraged, her competitive spirit returning now, but in a supportive way. They bounced ideas off each other, feeding into each other's energy. With every suggestion, Jake felt more like himself. He wasn't just a target, he was someone worthy of respect. Jake chuckled, the tension dissipating as he acknowledged her quirky charm. As they wrapped up their brainstorming session, a new excitement filled the air. Their friendship, forged in vulnerability and honesty, felt renewed, held together by a shared understanding that sometimes life's surprises come in ways you least expect. When they finally stood up to leave, Jake felt a surge of optimism. Walking out of the cafe, he realized that the fears that once bound him had transformed into strength. "I'm proud of you, Jake, seriously," Jenna said as they stepped into the bustling street, the sun shining brightly. "Thanks," they shared a laugh, the earlier mockery now a memory washed away by the tide of support. Suddenly, something shifted in Jenna's gaze as she looked at him. "You know, I think I've been projecting my insecurities onto you." Jake took a beat, absorbing the honesty behind her words. "We all have moments like that, and it's okay." A thought struck him, sharp and clear. "Here's a deal, I'll keep being myself. You keep showing your true self." Jenna's smile transformed into something genuine, almost vulnerable. As they walked together, there was something new in the air, a sense of camaraderie built on mutual respect. Jenna's earlier mockery was now a reminder of how far they had come, a catalyst for growth that drew them closer rather than apart. Jake felt a resurgence of confidence as they headed towards the office where his dreams awaited. He knew he would walk in proud, ready for whatever they threw at him, armed not only with his skills but also with the strength of their friendship and the understanding they had forged. It wasn't just a new beginning for Jake. It was also a chance for Jenna to redefine herself, to look deeper into who she was and how she could grow. Together, they learned that it's okay to not always fit the mold, to find strength in vulnerability, and to support one another along the way. In the ever-busy world around them, with laughter and chatter weaving through the air, Jake and Jenna stepped forward, ready for whatever life had in store together. Jake had just spotted Jenna across the room when he heard her laughter pierce the air like a needle through fabric. He stood at the entrance of the cafe, his heart racing. Dressed in his best outfit-tailored pants and a crisp white shirt, he felt ready for whatever lay ahead. But as Jenna's gaze landed on him, the smile that crept across her face felt more like a storm brewing. "Oh wow," she called out, her voice a mix of amusement and disbelief. Jake's stomach dropped. The laughter around him grew louder, each sound hitting him like a punch. He had carefully picked this outfit, believing it would convey professionalism and confidence. In this moment, however, he felt small and exposed. "Yeah, I thought it looked good," he managed to reply, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. "Good." Her words sliced through the atmosphere, drawing the attention of nearby patrons. Beneath her lighthearted jest lurked something sharper. Was she just teasing, or was something deeper occurring? He felt the warmth creep up his neck, the embarrassment tightening his chest. "Come on, Jenna, it's not that bad," he said, trying to maintain his composure as he walked to their usual table. The moment he sat down with the steaming coffee in front of him, Jake could sense Jenna's energy shift, but it didn't take long for her playful banter to return. She teased again, leaning back with a smirk. A knot twisted in his stomach as her words echoed in his mind. It was just clothes, right? Why was he letting this get to him? The cafe was alive with the chatter of other customers, the calming sounds of machines grinding coffee beans, yet all he experienced was the discomfort of her eyes on him. Through their light conversation, Jake felt anxious about the meeting he had later in the day. He needed this opportunity more than anything, a shot at a job that could change everything. But in that moment, under Jenna's teasing gaze, it felt like it could fall apart before it had even begun. As the barista called out other people's orders, Jake's mind wandered. His phone buzzed in his pocket, cutting through his thoughts. Surprised, he fished it out and glanced at the screen. An unknown number flashed back at him. Most people would ignore it, but a surge of instinct urged him to answer. He said, trying to inject some confidence into his voice. The voice on the other end radiated positivity, instantly gaining his trust. "Yes, it is," he replied, curiosity piqued. "This is Sarah from Tech Innovators," she continued, each word brisk and enthusiastic. His heart raced and disbelief washed over him. Did she just say interview? His previous worries melted away as possibilities filled his mind. "Wow," Jake exclaimed, barely able to contain his excitement. Jenna's teasing laughter transformed into an expression of genuine interest as she leaned closer, her smugness giving way to surprise. Sarah asked, her tone carrying the promise of opportunity. "Yes, absolutely." As they discussed the details, Jake could feel Jenna's gaze shift from amusement to awe. The earlier mockery faded into a distant memory, replaced by a little spark of respect. "Fantastic, I'll send you the details shortly," Sarah said. He replied, ending the call. Excitement coursed through his veins. Turning to Jenna, he saw her eyes wide with realization. Her expression softened. "Yeah," he asked, trying to contain his joy. A moment passed, and he sensed a hint of change in her demeanor. "I mean, that's awesome. I didn't actually think you'd get it," she admitted, her earlier bravado replaced by sincerity. Jake couldn't help but smile. "You really thought I wouldn't?" Jenna chuckled nervously, and for the first time he saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. "Okay, fine, maybe I was wrong." "Exactly," Jake said, feeling a swell of pride as he continued. She nodded slowly, a newfound respect blooming between them. "You're right, Jake, I've been projecting my insecurities onto you. Understanding like that is hard for anyone," he replied gently. Their exchange shifted the atmosphere in a way Jake never expected. Instead of defensiveness, there was honesty. The teasing had opened up a conversation rooted in acceptance. They spent the next few minutes diving deep into what Jake should expect at the interview, brainstorming what he could exemplify about himself in that moment. Words flowed between them like a lively river, easy and transparent. "Okay, think about it," Jenna inquired, a glimmer of excitement sparking in her voice. My experience in project management, the skills I learned from my internships, and how I can help the team grow," Jake replied, feeling more confident as they spoke. "That's great, and don't forget to share how passionate you are," Jenna reminded him. "I won't," she pressed. They continued tossing ideas back and forth, Jenna's earlier teasing demeanor long forgotten. With each suggestion, Jake felt his earlier worries dissipate like morning mist. He wasn't just preparing for an interview, he was stepping into a new reality for himself, a chance to prove he belonged in that room. After what seemed like an hour, Jenna finally leaned back in her chair, satisfied. "I think you're ready," Jake beamed at her. "Thanks." A knowing smile crept across Jenna's face, and for a moment the earlier banter felt like a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. "Here's the deal," Jake declared. "If I nail this interview, dinner is on me." Jenna laughed, her eyes sparkling. Fine. With newfound warmth in their friendship, they stood up, eager to head out. Jake felt a weight lift off his shoulders as they made their way down the street, energized and hopeful. Just remember, no matter what, it's not just about the clothes you wear, but how you carry yourself inside and out, Jenna added, the earlier mockery replaced with a strong bond of understanding. After they parted ways, Jake could still hear her laughter, but now it didn't sting. Instead, it filled him with confidence. He understood now that their friendship thrived in these moments, when they were real, vulnerable, and supportive. As he approached the tech innovator's office, his heart pounded with anticipation. No longer was he that awkward guy with bad clothing choices. He was a man prepared, and he was ready to show them who he truly was inside. Walking through the glass doors, Jake felt a rush of adrenaline. The sleek, modern design of the office amplified his excitement, pulling him into the world he had always wanted. The receptionist smiled warmly, guiding him to the waiting area. As he sat and waited for his name to be called, his mind raced through everything he had practiced. Suddenly, he realized it wasn't just about landing this job. It was about proving to himself that he was capable of more than just his outfit. The interviewer's voice called him forward, and he stood up, straightening his posture, reminding himself of Jenna's encouragement. Stepping into the interview room, he took a deep breath. The panel of interviewers smiled, and he felt ready. This wasn't just a test of his skills. It was a chance to own who he was and show how far he could go. Over the next hour, they dove deep into conversation, discussing past experiences, challenges he had faced, and future aspirations. With each question, Jake found himself more alive than ever, breaking through the initial nerves. Instead of rehearsed responses, he found authenticity resonating through his answers. He felt a connection with the panel, as if they were there for more than just a job interview. "Tell us what motivates you," one of the interviewers asked. Jake paused, thinking of all he had experienced, every ounce of support he'd received. "Honestly, it's about growth, both personal and professional. I want to be part of a team where we can uplift one another and make a difference," he replied, his voice steady and confident. As the interview wrapped up, Jake felt lighter, more alive than he had in a long time. "Thank you for your time, Jake. We'll be in touch soon," another interviewer said with a smile, and in that moment he knew he had given everything he could. Walking back outside, the sun shone brightly on his face. A surge of hope bubbled within him as he recalled Jenna's support, her laughter and encouragement. His phone buzzed, a text from her lighting up the screen. "How did it go?" Jake couldn't help but smile as he typed back. "I think it went really well. We'll see how it plays out." Once again, her laughter danced through his mind, but this time it felt transformative. As he headed home, he realized that sometimes the most unexpected moments lead to self-discovery. In the face of mockery, he found resolve. In vulnerability, he found a stronger bond with Jenna. In the midst of challenges, he had discovered who he truly was. Jake knew that no outfit could define his worth, but through the supportive camaraderie of friends, he learned the power of believing in oneself, and that sometimes real growth comes when we're vulnerable, willing to accept both our strengths and weaknesses. Jake stood outside the cafe, rehearsing the words swirling in his mind like a storm. He took a deep breath, smoothed his tailored shirt, and stepped inside. A cozy hum enveloped him, full of chatter and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. He spotted Jenna across the room, her infectious laughter breaking the calm like thunder. She called out, her voice striking like a bolt of lightning. The laughter that followed felt like daggers in his chest. Jake's heart sank, a wave of embarrassment crashing over him. He had put a lot of thought into this outfit, the crisp, light gray blazer, the neatly pressed shirt, the polished shoes. He thought he looked sharp, ready to make a big impression. He shot back, trying to keep his voice steady, but hearing the crack of insecurity slip through. Jenna grinned, unabashed. The words hung in the air, snatching the courage right out of his chest. He swallowed hard, the laughter surrounding him making him feel like a performance in a tragic play, where everyone else was in on the joke but him. "It's business casual," he mumbled, trying to regain some ground while he walked toward her table. "Business casual," she replied, her eyes dancing with mischief. Jake forced a laugh, but the sound hung awkwardly in the air. He wished he could blend into the cafe's wood-paneled walls, hoping the judgmental glances would fade away with his increasing disappointment. Here he was, excited about the chance of a lifetime to land a job he desperately wanted, and yet all he could hear was Jenna's mocking laughter echoing in his ears. Once they had settled, Jake's heart raced with anxiety and frustration. Thoughts spiraled through his mind. Was Jenna right? Would his outfit ruin his chances? He sipped his coffee, but it felt bitter, a stark contrast to his hopes. In the back of his mind, the weight of the upcoming interview tormented him, a vital opportunity that could reshape his future. With every sip, he could almost hear his dreams evaporating into thin air like steam rising from the cup. "Come on, Jake, you're making too big a deal out of this," Jenna said, leaning in with a teasing smile. "You need to make an impression." All right, you've made your point," he snapped, his frustration bubbling over. But before she could respond, his phone buzzed in his pocket, slicing through the tension like a knife. He pulled it out and glanced at the screen. An unknown number flashed in bold letters. Most people would have ignored it, but something nudged at him to pick it up. he said, trying to sound more prepared than he felt. A cheerful voice greeted him. Hi, yes, this is he replied, curiosity sparking in his eyes as Jenna leaned closer, her earlier teasing dissipating into quiet intrigue. This is Sarah from Tech Innovators, she continued. We reviewed your application and were impressed. Jake's heart raced, disbelief wrapping its tendrils around him. Today his mind spun, a whirlwind of possibilities flooding his thoughts. Wow, really, that's incredible, he responded, realizing he could hardly contain his excitement. Sarah asked, her tone embodying warm professionalism. Jake exclaimed, a wide grin creasing his face. He glanced at Jenna, her mouth hanging slightly open, shock plastered on her face. Great, I'll send the details over shortly, Sarah said. Thank you so much. Jake felt like he was floating, a sharp contrast to the heaviness he felt just moments before. He ended the call and turned to Jenna, whose surprise now lingered in the air like a palpable energy. He shouted, pride bubbling within him. Her expression flipped from mockery to astonishment. Wait, you're serious? Yeah. Said, his heart racing with a mix of thrill and disbelief. Jenna blinked once, then twice, her competitive edge softening into genuine admiration. Wow, that's incredible. Jake felt the warmth rush back into his cheeks, an unexpected surge of confidence replacing the embarrassment that had consumed him just moments before. I guess you never know what can happen, he replied, a playful glint in his eye. She chuckled, the tension between them shifting into something softer, something connected. You're right, I shouldn't have judged you based on what you wear. You've proven me wrong, she admitted, her voice losing its previous sharp edge. Jake leaned back, letting out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. It's fine. Sometimes we all judge too quickly, you know. For a moment, they shared a quiet, genuine understanding. It felt good, like a balm over a wound that had only just begun to heal. Jenna asked, her tone now encouraging rather than competitive. I want to prepare for this, Jake said, determination lighting his eyes. I've got to show them I'm the right fit. All right, let's brainstorm. You got this, she said, the light in her eyes brightening as they caught the momentum of excitement. As they dove deep into his experiences and strengths, the lines between them blurred. They moved from awkward jabs to back and forth brainstorming, pooling their ideas and creating a supportive space filled with excitement and camaraderie. Highlight your project management skills, Jenna suggested, her confidence pushing through. Yes, and how I turned that project into a success, gaining that impressive client, Jake added, his fire stoked by her encouragement. Exactly, and don't forget to talk about your ability to adapt and learn quickly. That's a big one, she advised, her enthusiasm palpable. With each new idea, they lost track of time, the earlier mockery fading into laughter and motivation. They were no longer just a guy in a goofy outfit and a girl who teased. They were allies, conjuring up positivity and resilience. When Jenna leaned back in her chair, her lips curled into a proud smile. You are so ready for this. Jake felt a surge of gratitude washing over him. Thanks, Jenna. As they wrapped up, he could feel the clock ticking away. Time was getting closer for him to head to the interview. He stood, determination replacing the earlier doubts. Jenna suggested, her eyes glimmering with excitement. Sounds great, Jake winked, playfully pushing back against her earlier mockery. Jenna laughed as they made their way out to the bustling street, the sunlight spilling over them like warm honey. Jake felt lighter, invigorated by their collaboration and renewed connection. The teasing that once hung over him faded like mist under the rising sun. Just remember, Jake, Jenna said as they walked, it's not just about the outfit but how you carry yourself. Jake nodded, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. For sure, and I won't forget where I came from either. Once they entered the sandwich shop, they stood side by side, debating what to order while their laughter mingled in the air, forged by newfound camaraderie. As they settled into the booth, Jake's heart raced with anticipation, not just for the food but for the challenge ahead. There, surrounded by the hustle and bustle of the shop, Jake felt a renewed sense of self. He would walk into that interview firm in his beliefs and embrace his quirks. With every bite of the sandwich, he could feel strength building within him. They chatted about hobbies, shared dreams, and even openly admitted their fears. That connection, stripped of barriers, felt powerful, necessary. Eventually, their food vanished like his earlier doubts about himself. The time had come. Jake took a deep breath, preparing to face the next chapter of his life. As they exited the shop, the sun shone brightly overhead, casting warmth on his determined spirit. Well, this is it. Thank you for everything, Jenna, he said, genuine gratitude threading through his tone. She urged him, cheer on her face. They laughed, the joke breaking the final remnants of tension that lingered. With that, Jake headed toward Tech Innovators, hope guiding his steps. Once he arrived, the sleek, tall building loomed over him like a guardian of opportunity. He pushed through the glass doors, entering the heart of his dreams. As he signed in and approached the reception, his earlier feelings of doubt began to slip away. Each confident step echoed in his mind, building momentum. Today was his day. After a few moments, he was called into the interview room. The panel sat before him, a mix of serious expressions with warm welcomes. Jake, glad to see you, one interviewer said, smiling. Jake took a deep breath, grounding himself. Sure, my name is Jake Miller, and I've always had a passion for technology and how it can change lives. As the interview unfolded, he felt more alive than ever. With every question, he poured his heart into his answers, weaving in stories of challenges he had overcome and the lessons he had learned. He sensed curiosity from the panel, the way they leaned in, questioning, considering. And with each exchange, Jake became less of the awkward guy in a quirky outfit and more of a candidate ready to fight for his place. When they asked him about teamwork, Jake felt a wave of adrenaline. In my previous roles, I learned that collaboration often leads to the best solutions. We lifted each other and overcame hurdles together. A shared nod and smiles spread across the panel, and Jake knew he was striking a chord. As the interview concluded, the atmosphere buzzed with a sense of excitement. They thanked him for coming in and promised to reach out soon. Stepping back outside, Jake felt exhilarated. He looked at his reflection in the glass doors, not just seeing the man in the outfit, but a man who had embraced vulnerability, resilience, and authenticity. The sun beamed down, and for the first time, Jake felt every ounce of self-doubt crystallize into unwavering confidence. He wasn't just there for a job, he was there for himself. Moments later, his phone buzzed, a message lighting up the screen. Jenna's text read eagerly. Without hesitation, he typed back, "It went amazing, thanks for everything." As he walked down the bright street, Jake felt empowered. Life had thrown its punches, but he had stood tall, turning the mockery into motivation. In his mind, he recounted how that teasing moment had led him to unexpected understanding, not just of others, but of himself. Through the lens of vulnerability, Jake learned that every frustrating challenge could be a stepping stone to something greater. And maybe, just maybe, he'd teach Jenna a thing or two about the importance of kindness along the way. Jake stood outside the cafe, his heart racing as he tightened his tie. Today was significant, a day that could change the trajectory of his career. He took a deep breath, opened the door, and stepped into the warm, inviting atmosphere. The buzz of conversations and the rich aroma of coffee swirled around him, but all he could focus on was Jenna's familiar laughter that rang out like a bell. She spotted him almost immediately, her eyes lighting up with mischief. Wow. She called, her voice loud enough to draw the attention of the other customers. Jake's heart sank. His carefully chosen outfit, a crisp white shirt, tailored trousers, and freshly polished shoes suddenly felt inadequate under her scrutiny. The moment he'd envisioned with confidence was spiraling out of control. He responded, trying to sound casual, but he could hear the tremor in his voice. Jenna leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms with a smirk. Her laughter mingled with the cafe noise, hitting him like a blunt force. He felt heat rising to his cheeks, anger and embarrassment swirling inside him. Hadn't he put enough time into choosing the right outfit? "Come on, it's business casual," he retorted, but he was losing the battle against doubt. The laughter around him seemed to echo Jenna's words, amplifying his insecurity. He sat down across from her, feeling like a performer on a stage, waiting for the audience to judge his every move. As he took a sip of his coffee, its bitter taste matched the growing knot in his stomach. Are you really going to go into that meeting looking like that? The world around him faded as her laughter continued to echo. He couldn't shake her words from his mind. All he could think was, what if she was right? What if this outfit ruined his chances? Hours ago, he'd felt sharp, confident, and ready to seize the day. But Jenna's mockery had cracked that confidence, and now he questioned everything. The upcoming meeting loomed like a dark cloud, threatening to rain down on his hopes and dreams. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a welcome distraction breaking through his spiraling thoughts. He fished it out and glanced at the unfamiliar number, debating whether to answer. Before he could think twice, he pressed the green button. He said cautiously, "Hi." A cheerful voice greeted him. "Yes, it is," he replied, surprised. "Fantastic." "This is Sarah from Tech Innovators," she said, her tone exuding enthusiasm. Jake's heart soared. The words struck him with the force of a tidal wave, washing over his embarrassment and replacing it with a rush of excitement and disbelief. He exclaimed, barely able to contain the joy bubbling inside him. "Absolutely, you were among our top candidates." Sarah continued, her energy infectious. "Yes, I'd love to," he answered, a smile breaking across his face. As he hung up, the world spun back into focus. Jenna's expression had shifted. Shock replaced her earlier mockery. She asked, her voice suddenly sincere. Jake's excitement burst forth like a firecracker, the tension between them dissipating like smoke in the air. "Wow, I didn't believe you'd actually get it," she said, her eyes wide with genuine surprise. In that moment, something shifted. The earlier contempt evaporated, replaced by a sense of shared triumph. "I guess you never know what someone is capable of," Jake said, the confidence swelling back inside him. Jenna's expression softened. "Okay, maybe I was too harsh, right? What matters is that I'm ready to show them who I really am," Jake replied, feeling a swell of strength from her newfound respect. Jenna encouraged, leaning in with renewed enthusiasm. "So what's your game plan?" "I need to stand out, show them I can contribute to their team," he said, thinking aloud. Jenna replied, the competitive edge returning, but this time tinged with support. As they brainstormed, the previous mockery transformed into motivation. Jake's nervous energy shifted, turning into a charged focus. Each suggestion Jenna made resonated with him, and soon he was rattling off his achievements and passions like the notes of a favorite song. "Don't forget your experience with that marketing firm," she suggested. "Yes." I led a team that turned around a failing product, Jake recalled, his passion igniting as he spoke. Jenna nodded, her eyes sparkling. See, you're already proving you can do this. As ideas flowed, Jake felt his earlier doubts slip away like sand through his fingers. The energy between them was electric, a surge of encouragement locking them into a new understanding. Jenna asked as they rounded up their brainstorming session. Exactly, I need to incorporate that. Jake agreed, his enthusiasm rising even further. By the time they finished, the air was thick with possibility, and Jake could almost taste the success he hoped awaited him. For the first time, he felt ready to tackle his future. It wasn't just about the outfit, it was about all he could bring to the table. Let's grab a quick bite before you go, Jenna suggested, her excitement bubbling over. Jake shot back playfully. Fine, she replied, her spirit infectious. As they walked to a nearby sandwich shop, the solidifying bond between them became apparent. The initial mockery transformed into a supportive friendship, igniting something deeper and more meaningful. Over sandwiches, they shared stories, laughing over shared experiences and even revealing their fears. Their connection grew, nurtured by openness and authenticity. When the time came for Jake to leave, he felt different. No longer tethered by the weight of expectations from others, he walked with renewed purpose. The vibrant street buzzed around him as he made his way toward tech innovators, the sun casting a warm glow over his determined spirit. Entering the building felt momentous. He stepped toward the sleek glass doors, his heart pounding in rhythm with his thriving excitement. Today wasn't just about securing a job, it was about realizing his potential, and the mockery he had faced was only a small puzzle piece in the larger picture. As he reached the reception, a calm overtook him, an awareness that he was here for more than just a job. He was here to prove himself, to kick down barriers and show what he was truly capable of. Jake Miller here for an interview, he said, a firm confidence threading through his voice. The receptionist smiled warmly and gestured toward the waiting area. He sat, tapping his fingers anxiously on his knees, mentally rehearsing everything he had prepared. The seconds felt like hours as he waited, but when his name finally rang through the air, adrenaline surged within. Called one of the interviewers with a welcoming smile. Jake stood up and met the panel of interviewers, their expressions blending professionalism with warmth. He took a moment, grounding himself, reminding himself of Jenna's words about real confidence. Welcome, Jake. We've been looking forward to meeting you, the lead interviewer said as they motioned for him to sit. As the questions flowed, Jake realized he was more than just an anxious applicant. He was a driven professional eager to make a mark. He shared stories of resilience, teamwork, and passion, allowing his genuine self to shine through. Jake, one of the interviewers said, leaning closer, what keeps you motivated in times of difficulty? In that moment, he felt a spark ignite inside him. What motivates me is the impact I can have, not only on my work, but on my team as well. He watched their faces light up, a wave of connection washing over him. The earlier insecurities faded into the background. This was his moment, and he was owning it. As the interview wrapped up, Jake felt lighter, more invigorated than ever before. He'd shown them who he was, his insights, his vulnerabilities, and most importantly, his capability. Thank you for your time, Jake. We'll be in touch shortly, another interviewer said, flashing a sincere smile. Stepping outside, Jake was greeted by the sun streaming down, illuminating the path before him. He pulled out his phone, a rush of anticipation lacing through him as he typed a quick message to Jenna. I think it went really well, thanks for your support. As he walked along the sidewalk, the weight of self-doubt dissipated completely, replaced by a new sense of purpose. He had transformed not only in front of the interviewers, but within himself as well. The way he carried himself was now a reflection of the internal shift. He wasn't just the guy Jenna had teased, he was a man ready to step into his dreams. Moments later, his phone buzzed again with a reply. I knew you could do it. Each step felt light, filled with possibility, a new chapter waiting to unfold. In that moment, Jake understood that setbacks and mockery could sharpen one's resolve, leading to unforeseen growth. As he reflected on the day, he realized that life often challenges us, pushing us to rise above our circumstances. Instead of allowing her words to diminish him, he had turned them into fuel, proving not only to Jenna but also to himself that he was capable of anything. Today wasn't just about an interview, it had been a revelation, a journey of discovering who he truly was and who he could become. And as he moved forward, he knew that this was a lesson he would carry with him, a testament to the strength found in embracing authenticity and resilience. Jake stood in front of the mirror, checking his reflection one last time. His crisp white shirt was perfectly pressed, his tailored trousers fit just right, and the new shoes sparkled like armor for his big day. He wanted to feel confident, he wanted to impress. Today was the interview that could change everything. With a deep breath to steady his nerves, he stepped out of his apartment, his heart racing with excitement as he made his way to the cafe where he was meeting Jenna. As he entered, the bustling atmosphere hit him immediately. The hum of conversations surrounded him like a warm embrace, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee wrapped around his senses. Jake's gaze fell on Jenna, who was seated at their usual table. The moment she laid eyes on him, her laughter sliced through the ambient noise, stark and sharp. Wow, she called out, disbelief decorating her face. The laughter that erupted from her lips felt like a punch to the gut. Jake's heart dropped. Hadn't he put enough thought into this outfit? Was it really that bad? Suddenly, he felt vulnerable, exposed, like a deer caught in headlights. He managed to say, trying to sound casual while feeling his cheeks flush red. She exclaimed, her voice dripping with mockery. As he made his way to her table, he could feel the stares of other patrons piercing through his confidence. Perfectly timed, the laughter spread through the cafe, and Jake was left standing there, the laughter echoing in his ears. He shot back, but the defense felt feeble even to him. Business casual, she joked, leaning back in her chair with a smirk. Jake forced a smile, but inside he felt defeated. He was there to discuss a promising job opportunity, and Jenna's teasing felt like it was unraveling his self-esteem thread by thread. He gripped his coffee cup, trying to draw comfort from its warmth, but even that tasted bitter today. "Come on, Jake," Jenna continued, swirling her coffee as if she was stirring up another insult. He tried to shake off the negativity. "I thought I looked good," he replied, frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. As they settled into small talk, every sentence felt strained, the mockery hanging over him like a dark cloud. He glanced at the time on his phone, anxiety creeping into his chest. This meeting was bigger than he wanted it to be, and he needed to cultivate a sense of calm instead of letting her words rattle him. Then, as if on cue, his phone buzzed. A wave of hope gushed through him as he pulled it out, noting the unfamiliar number. The urgency of the moment sparked an instinct, and he answered without hesitation. "Hi." The bright voice on the other end was cheerful, almost shocking in contrast to his current feelings. Jake replied, curiosity pulling him to the edge of his seat. "This is Sarah from Tech Innovators," she continued, her enthusiasm like a shot of espresso. His heart leapt, laughter spilling out unexpectedly. This was real. "Oh wow, really?" Sarah asked. "Yes, absolutely." Jake eagerly responded, a wave of adrenaline washing away his earlier embarrassment. Jenna's teasing demeanor shifted as she leaned closer, interest glimmering in her eyes. "No way, yes," he said, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. Her expression morphed into something resembling respect. "That's amazing." In that moment, Jake felt a flicker of warmth igniting in the space between them. "Guess you never know what someone can accomplish," he said, feeling the tides of their banter shift. "Wow, Jake. That's really incredible," she admitted, her voice softened. The laughter, once sharp and cutting, transformed into something more encouraging. They shared a smile that was laden with newfound respect, bridging the gap that had widened under the weight of her earlier jabs. "And now I really need to prepare," Jake said, adrenaline coursing through every word. "Right, let's brainstorm." Jenna quickly shifted into supportive mode, the competitive spirit in her now a guiding light. As they sat together, the atmosphere changed. Ideas bounced between them like a well-placed tennis match. Jake slowly fell into a rhythm, recalling his strengths and experiences. "What about your leadership role in that marketing project?" Jenna reminded him. "Exactly, and how I turned a failing initiative into a massive success," he exclaimed, feeling the gears of his mind start to spin faster. "And they're going to want to know what makes you tick," she said, enthusiasm radiating like a beacon. Their session became a kaleidoscope of ideas, possibilities blossoming before them like flowers in spring. With each new idea, Jake's earlier insecurities began to fade. It was refreshing to see the shift her criticism wrapped in encouragement now. "And you can't forget your problem-solving skills," Jenna urged. "Yes, I've tackled challenges head-on," Jake said, the fire rekindling inside him. Time slipped away as they brainstormed, the earlier mockery morphing into camaraderie. Jake felt invigorated, numb to the shadows of doubt that had lingered only hours before. "All right, this is it," Jenna exclaimed, her eyes gleaming. "I appreciate your support, Jenna," he said, his gratitude genuine. "Let's grab a quick bite before you go," she suggested, a mischievous smile playing on her lips. Jake winked, feeling the ember of camaraderie ignite between them. "Deal," she laughed, their previous tensions softening into something more profound. As they made their way to a nearby deli, the hawkers called out in a rhythmic rhythm, weaving a tapestry of city life. Jake still felt a hint of nerves, but he was now buoyed by the excitement of possibility, and Jenna's presence gave him renewed energy. As they shared a sandwich, they continued to chat, laughter spilling between them like a gentle stream. The bond they forged over the meal felt refreshing. It served to remind them that friendship might have its ups and downs, but the foundation of support could overcome anything. "Okay, what's your strategy for the interview? You have to show them why you're the perfect fit," Jenna probed, her excitement palpable. "Right, I need to emphasize my adaptability," Jake replied, recalling moments in his past where he had stepped up under pressure. "And don't forget your knack for teamwork." She added, her eyes lighting up as she spoke. "Absolutely," he agreed, the words flowing freely now. After their quick lunch, Jake felt ready to take on the world. They rose from the table, and Jenna gave him a supportive pat on the back that sent a shock of confidence surging through him. Walking to the Tech Innovator's office, the sun warmed his face, illuminating the path ahead. He felt a transformation, each step reinforced with the understanding that he was gearing up to face not just the interview, but to showcase who he truly was. Upon entering the sleek, modern building, Jake felt a thrill of anticipation. The buzz of the office reeled him in, grounding him as the receptionist greeted him with a friendly smile. "Good afternoon, Jake. We've been expecting you," she said. "Thanks, I'm here for the interview," he replied, standing tall. As Jake sat in the waiting area, he could feel the energy of the office enveloping him like a warm blanket. A quick glance at the clock heightened his nerves. It wouldn't be long now. His mind danced over memories, past failures, small victories, and the journey that had brought him to this moment. The hours of preparation flashed before him, the supportive presence of Jenna flickering like a guiding light, called a crisp voice shaking him out of reverie. He stood and followed the interviewer into the conference room where a panel of 3 employees awaited his arrival. He took his seat, eyeing the panel as they smiled warmly. "Welcome, Jake. We're excited to hear more about you," the lead interviewer began, his tone genuine. Here it was, the moment he had prepared for. "Thank you for having me." Jake replied, his voice steady. As the questions flowed, he wove stories of his challenges and triumphs, each word more confident than the last. He talked about his ability to adapt, to innovate, and to collaborate with teammates. "So, Jake," one of the interviewers asked. He paused, reflecting. "What drives me is the chance to create meaningful connections with my team. We uplift each other, and that synergy leads to success." He saw the nods of agreement from the panel, and it fueled him further. As he shared more, the earlier doubts faded into the background like a distant memory. The interview was invigorating, unlike anything he had ever experienced. The people before him were not mere gatekeepers. They were potential allies, champions of a shared vision, eager to lift each other to new heights. When the interview concluded, Jake felt light, almost giddy. "Thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to share my journey," he said genuinely. "Jake will be in touch soon," the interviewer assured him, a warm smile lingering as he stood to leave. As he stepped back outside into the sunlight, Jake breathed deeply, filling his lungs with fresh air that felt alive with potential. His phone buzzed to life with a notification. He fished it out eagerly. Jenna wrote, her enthusiasm palpable even through the screen. "No," Jake texted back. As he walked down the street, a grin spread across his face. He reflected on what Jenna had said earlier about confidence and how it wasn't just about appearance but carrying oneself with pride. Today had been more than just an interview, it had been a turning point. Mockery that had once stung turned into motivation that lifted him higher than he imagined. Moments later, a reply came through. "That's amazing." Jake felt the rush of adrenaline, the warmth of friendship surging through him. It wasn't just about landing a job. It was about realizing he could shine brightly, even when faced with judgment or doubt. With each step, he knew he wasn't just walking toward a job opportunity. He was forging the path forward for himself, brimming with confidence, curiosity, and the desire to connect. Life, like his experience today, often brings unexpected challenges wrapped in humor. And sometimes, when faced with mockery, we can find strength, uplift others, and rise above it all by embracing the essence of who we truly are. Jake stood in front of his mirror, adjusting his tie with determined precision. Today was the day, the moment that could change everything. He took one last look at himself, smoothed down his shirt, and left for the cafe where he was meeting Jenna. As he walked, a mix of excitement and anxiety bubbled in his chest. Upon entering the cafe, the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped him, pulling him into the atmosphere filled with chatter and laughter. His eyes landed on Jenna, sitting at their usual table. The moment she saw him, her laughter erupted like a firecracker, echoing through the cafe. "Wow." Her voice sliced through the atmosphere, making heads turn. Jake's stomach dropped. He had carefully chosen this outfit. His polished shoes, tailored trousers, and freshly pressed shirt were meant to impress. But in that instant, all his confidence evaporated. He choked out, trying to hold on to a shred of dignity as embarrassment burned on his cheeks. "Oh, please," she exclaimed, laughter threading through her words. The laughter that followed felt like daggers piercing through his resolve. Jake's heart raced as he took a seat across from her, feeling smaller with each passing second. He forced a laugh, but it felt hollow and empty. Had he really miscalculated this badly? Was this really how he was going to start his day? He defended weakly, even as doubt crept into his mind. "Business casual," she shot back, her smirk troubling him more than he wanted to admit. As they sat together, he could feel the energy shift. The earlier lighthearted banter he had expected now felt more like an interrogation. Every comment she made chipped away at his confidence, leaving him disoriented. The moment he had been so eager for now felt clouded with dread. His heart raced as the minutes went by. He tried to focus on their small talk, but all he could hear were Jenna's taunts echoing in his mind. What if his choice of outfit really did affect how he was perceived? The stakes felt higher as he prepared to discuss a job he wanted desperately. Just then, his phone buzzed in his pocket, breaking through the tension. Relief washed over him like a wave. He fished it out, noticing an unknown number flashing across the screen, a welcome distraction from Jenna's teasing. He answered, trying to mask his curiosity with a hint of professionalism. A bright voice chimed on the other end, lifting his spirits momentarily. "Yes, this is he replied, intrigued. "This is Sarah from Tech Innovators," she continued. Jake's heart soared, excitement rushed through him, washing away the embarrassment that had plagued him moments before. Wow, he exclaimed, barely able to contain the joy bubbling inside him. Jenna leaned forward, surprise evident in her eyes as she watched him transform. She asked, her voice softening. Sarah prompted, her tone sparkling with enthusiasm. Yes, absolutely. Jake responded, his heart racing as hope rekindled within him. After ending the call, he turned to Jenna, who wore a shocked expression. He announced, the smile breaking across his face. She asked, barely able to conceal her astonishment. Yes, Jake replied, a confidence he hadn't felt before swelling inside him. Shifting in her seat, Jenna leaned in, her teasing demeanor fading away. I guess I underestimated you, she admitted, her voice genuine. In that moment, the air shifted between them. The laughter that had once cut deeply now transformed into shared excitement. I didn't dress for you or anyone else, Jake replied, his tone steadying. I dressed for me. Jenna said, her smile genuine now. I need to show them I'm ready to contribute, Jake replied, feeling empowered by their exchange. Jenna suggested, enthusiasm creeping back into her voice as they moved from awkward jabs to real support. As they started mapping out his strengths, Jake felt a shift, an awakening as the earlier mockery faded into the distance. He began recalling his accomplishments, the challenges he had navigated, and the lessons learned along the way. Jenna suggested, yes, I can showcase my leadership skills and how I managed to rally the team, he recalled, feeling the passion rise in his chest. And don't forget your ability to adapt, that's such a strong trait, Jenna added, excitement lighting her face. With each exchange, the weight of self-doubt continued to lighten. No longer did he feel like the punchline, he felt empowered, driven by purpose and clarity. Let's talk about what motivates you, Jenna mused. Yes, they're looking for someone who blends well, Jake agreed, his energy feeding off hers. As they marched through ideas, Jake's mind raced. He could feel the tension from earlier slip away, replaced by determination and a clearer vision. The storm of insecurity had turned into a focused resolution. All right, I think we've covered a lot, Jenna declared as they wrapped up their brainstorming session. Thanks, I couldn't have done this without you, Jake replied, genuine gratitude flooding him. Let's grab some food before you go, she suggested, optimism radiating from her. Jake joked, a playful challenge sparking in his eyes. Deal, she shot back with a mischievous grin. As they walked down the street toward a nearby deli, the weightlessness of his earlier embarrassment felt increasingly distant. With every step, energy crackled between them, the earlier mockery now a distant echo. Over lunch, they exchanged stories, laughter mingling in the air buoyed by support and friendship. Amidst the chatter, Jake felt liberated. Instead of feeling judged, he felt encouraged, and he found solace in the warmth of their connection. Jenna asked curiously. Jake took a moment to gather his thoughts. I need to be confident, but also relatable. Jenna replied, her excitement renewed. With their sandwiches devoured and laughter filling the air, Jake felt lighter, invigorated by the supportive friendship they cultivated. As the time to leave approached, he stood up, a new energy coursing through him. He said, clinking his soda with Jenna's. She encouraged him. Feeling buoyed by the exchange, Jake strode toward the tech innovator's office with newfound purpose. The sun shone brightly above him as he thought about the challenge ahead. Once he arrived, the modern building towered impressively, making his heart skip a beat. He stepped inside and was greeted by the sound of ringing phones and buzzing conversations, an energetic vibe filling the air. Good afternoon, you must be Jake Miller, the receptionist greeted, her smile warm and welcoming. Jake replied, his excitement bubbling to the surface. Please have a seat. They'll be with you shortly, she said, gesturing toward the waiting area. Jake sat, his mind racing with anticipation as he waited. This was it. He recalled the brainstorming session with Jenna and the sense of empowerment that came from their collaboration. He knew he wasn't just walking in for an interview, he was stepping into an opportunity to showcase his true self. Finally, an interviewer called his name, and Jake stood as if he had just been shot from a cannon. The panel of three faced him, their expressions welcoming yet serious. Welcome, Jake, we're looking forward to getting to know you better, the lead interviewer said, his voice confident and friendly. Jake returned their smiles, feeling a surge of energy in the room. This was his moment. Thank you for the opportunity, I'm excited to be here, he said, his tone steady and clear. As questions flowed, Jake began to share his story, each word building upon the last, emotions rising and falling like waves. The interviewers engaged with him enthusiastically, their interest evident. So Jake, one of them asked, leaning in with curiosity, what motivates you in your work? Jake paused, mulling over the importance of the question. He took a breath and replied, I thrive in environments where collaboration fosters creativity. He could see their approving nods, and it filled him with a new sense of calmness and confidence. Tell us about a time when you faced a challenge and how you approached it, another interviewer prompted. Jake recalled a tough project from his past, detailing how he had rallied his team to overcome roadblocks together. The conversation felt more like a discussion than an interview, and he found himself genuinely enjoying it. As the interview wrapped up, Jake could hardly believe how well it had gone. Thank you all so much for this opportunity. I appreciate every moment, he said earnestly, a wide smile stretching across his face. Jake, it was a pleasure meeting you, said the lead interviewer. Walking out of that office felt triumphantly surreal. He stepped back into the sunlight, the warmth wrapping around him like a comfortable blanket as his phone buzzed to life in his pocket. Pulling it out, he saw a message from Jenna. How did it go? Honestly, he typed back, excitement coursing through him. She joked, the excitement palpable even through the screen. Jake laughed, feeling a surge of gratitude. How odd it was that just hours before he had felt so small. Now he felt empowered in ways he hadn't imagined. Absolutely. As he walked down the street, Jake felt lighter. It was more than just a job opportunity. It was a moment of clarity. Today was a testament to the idea that mockery and judgment could fuel a fire that burned brightly in the face of adversity. His experience with Jenna earlier had transformed from jest to encouragement, a reminder that the bonds we forge can uplift us even through our darkest moments. Moments that once felt debilitating transformed into stepping stones toward greater triumphs. Jake smiled, exhilarated not just by the interview, but by the realization that he had grown stronger through all of it. He was becoming not just the person he wanted to be, but also someone who knew how to stand his ground, even in the face of ridicule. In life's unpredictable journey, embracing authenticity, embracing growth, and overcoming challenges, these would always be his guiding lights. And as he continued walking, he knew he had not only taken a step toward his career, but had also learned a powerful lesson about friendship, resilience, and the strength of believing in oneself. Jake stood in front of his mirror, fixing his tie as if it were his armor for battle. Today was crucial, the day he would interview for a job that could change everything. He felt a rush of excitement and nerves coursing through him, each pulse mirroring his heart's rhythm. With one last look, he stepped out of his apartment, determination guiding him through the bustling city streets. The cafe was alive with energy when he arrived. The rich scent of coffee enveloped him, mingling with the sound of clinking cups and animated conversations. As he scanned the room, his eyes found Jenna already seated at their usual corner table, a sly smirk plastered across her face. The moment she saw him, her laughter rang out, sharp and mocking. "Wow," she called, her voice cutting through the ambient noise like a knife. Jake felt his stomach drop, as if it had plummeted into the depths of his shoes. He had thought he looked sharp, his dark blazer, fitted trousers, and crisp white shirt had been chosen for a reason, but now doubt washed over him. He managed to ask, trying to hold on to his composure. "Oh please, you look like you're about to host a game show." Jenna leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms, seemingly reveling in the moment. The laughter that followed felt like daggers, piercing his already fragile confidence. Jake felt the heat rise to his face, and he could almost hear the whispers and giggles of nearby customers, mocking him along with her. He protested, but the words felt empty. Business casual. The smirk on her face was infuriating, and all he could think about was how this was the moment meant to propel him forward. As he sat down across from her, he felt like a performer on stage, exposed and vulnerable under the spotlight. The excitement he had felt moments before began to crumble. He took a sip of the coffee before him to ground himself, but it tasted bitter, much like the situation unfolding before him. "Seriously, Jake," she continued, leaning in slightly, her tone shifting to mock concern. "You need to impress them." The clock on the wall ticked loudly in his ears as he felt his stomach churn. He had put so much effort into this crafted image of himself for the meeting, and now it seemed to hang by a thread that Jenna was happily severing with every spoken word. Jake tried to brush it off. "Okay, I get it. Maybe I don't look like the typical suit-wearing candidate, but I'm still capable," he said, his tone bordering on defensive. A moment later, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It felt like a gift, an escape from Jenna's relentless teasing. He pulled it out, glancing at the screen, an unfamiliar number. Something deep within urged him to answer. He said cautiously, trying to sound composed. "Hi," a bright, cheerful voice chimed in. "Yes, it is," Jake replied, unable to hide the hint of curiosity in his tone. "This is Sarah from Tech Innovators. We went through your application and we'd like to invite you in for an interview this afternoon," she said, the excitement brimming in her voice. His heart surged. Joy flooded his veins, collapsing, all the self-doubt swirling around him just moments before. "Really?" he exclaimed, feeling as though he may just float away. Jenna's mocking nature transformed into something resembling awe as she leaned forward. "No way, yes," the words spilled from his lips like champagne popping from a bottle, exhilarating and effervescent. "Wow, I honestly didn't think you'd get a call back," Jenna admitted, her expression shifting from disbelief to admiration. "I guess you never know what's possible," Jake replied, a warmth spreading through him as he locked eyes with her, feeling their dynamic shift from mockery to a shared moment of celebration. He placed the phone on the table, a smile frozen across his face. "I need to prepare for this. I could use your help," he said, his tone now taking on an air of determination. "Let's go for it," Jenna asked, her previous attitude melting into genuine interest. As they brainstormed, the tension from earlier faded into the background, replaced by a constructive energy that electrified the air between them. Jake began to feel more like himself, recalling moments from his past where he excelled and collaborated with others. "Think about your leadership skills," Jenna suggested, her eyes lighting up. Yes, I can highlight that. I worked with the team to breathe life into it again, Jake responded, his thoughts racing. And you need to talk about your problem-solving skills, Jenna added. They moved seamlessly through ideas, matching Jake's traits and experience to what the company might desire. The earlier ridicule had transformed into constructive support, and with each idea, Jake's confidence blossomed. All right, this is it, Jenna exclaimed, her excitement palpable. Thanks, I appreciate it more than I can say, Jake replied, feeling a rush of gratitude for her unexpected support. Let's grab a quick bite before you head out, Jenna suggested, her spirit infectious. Jake firmed up the challenge with a playful grin. Fine, but I expect to see a nice suit for our dinner celebration, she laughed, and their dynamic felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. As they walked to the deli, the noise and laughter of the city wrapped around them like a warm hug. Jake felt a spark of excitement, as if the world was beckoning him to embrace his journey. After finishing their sandwiches, they returned to the cafe, the minutes ticking away like countdowns to a climactic climax. A rush of adrenaline surged within Jake, propelling him forward. All right, he declared, straightening his back, channeling the confidence they had built together. Jake headed toward the tech innovator's office, the sun shining brightly overhead. The towering building loomed before him, its sleek glass panels reflecting the vibrancy of life all around. As he stepped inside, the energy of the office pulsated around him, lively, dynamic, and electrifying. Good afternoon, you must be Jake Miller, the receptionist welcomed him, the warm smile easing his mind slightly. He replied, standing a bit taller. Please take a seat, they'll be with you shortly, she instructed, gesturing toward the seating area. As Jake waited, his breathing steadied, thoughts swirling with anticipation and adrenaline. This was more than just a job, it was a chance to prove himself, a moment to rewrite his narrative. He recalled the earlier mockery and allowed that energy to transform into motivation. Finally, he heard his name called. With a deep breath, he walked toward the boardroom as if he were gliding instead of walking. The panel of interviewers sat around a polished wooden table, their faces a blend of curiosity and authority. Welcome, Jake. We're looking forward to hearing about you and your experiences, said the lead interviewer, a friendly face that made him feel a little more at ease. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, Jake said, his voice steady. As the interview began, questions flowed seamlessly. With each inquiry, Jake felt more alive, recounting stories that were at once personal and professional. He illustrated how he had navigated challenges, fostered teamwork, and adapted to changes, all while building connections with colleagues. One of the interviewers asked, leaning in, genuinely intrigued. Jake took a moment to reflect, recognizing the importance of the question. I am driven by the idea of making a meaningful impact, not just individually, but within a team. The interviewer nodded, impressed, as the others exchanged encouraging glances. In that moment, Jake felt transformed. He wasn't just there to chase a job, he was there to showcase the essence of who he truly was. The interview continued as he seamlessly linked his experiences to the company's values. He could hear them responding positively, and that momentum pushed him to reveal more about himself, allowing authentic connections to form in the room between him and the panelists. Just as he finished a particularly engaging story about a successful project turnaround, the atmosphere shifted subtly. The lead interviewer interjected, Jake, let's dig deeper. Jake could feel the stakes rising, but instead of feeling panic, he remembered the earlier mockery, the feeling it had inspired him to lift himself. There was a time when a project I was leading seemed doomed to fail. I gathered my team, and instead of focusing on what had gone wrong, I encouraged us to brainstorm new strategies without fear. We managed to pivot our approach, and in the end, we not only succeeded but surpassed our goals. The interviewers leaned in as he spoke, passion poured out of him. They nodded, clearly engaged, inspiring him further. He had learned to take risks, to trust himself and others, and it felt incredibly empowering to articulate that journey. After what felt like both an eternity and a brief moment, the interview concluded. They thanked him for his time, promising to be in touch soon. Thank you for the opportunity, Jake said, pausing as he stood. As he stepped back into the sunlight, Jake felt as though he had just emerged from a cocoon. The adrenaline coursed through him. He felt alive, hopeful, filled with potential. Once outside, he quickly pulled out his phone. His heart raced at the thought of sharing the moment with Jenna. How did it go? Her message blared across the screen, and he couldn't help but smile. I think it went really well, he typed back, excitement bubbling in his chest. But just as he hit send, a flash of movement caught his eye at the corner of the street. A group of people hurried by, one of them bumping into him. Jake stumbled back, regaining his balance as he glared at the intruder. They ducked down an alley before he could say a word, but something felt off. Something in the air shifted as Jake glanced down at the phone he had just used. His heart raced again, but not with excitement. It was something else, a sinking, creeping anxiety that whispered of impending chaos. Glancing back toward the cafe where Jenna was, he felt the ground underneath him tremble as if the world was shifting on its axis. Then a chill ran down his spine as he felt his phone buzz in his hand. Another message appeared on the screen, and as he read it, disbelief struck like lightning. Meet me now. Jake's breath caught in his throat. He hesitated, uncertainty gnawing at him. Who had sent this, and why did it feel like his reality was beginning to unravel? As adrenaline coursed through him, he looked back toward the cafe, uncertainty radiating through him. What started as a day of promise now teetered on the edge of something much darker. Before he could process, he felt the weight of eyes on him once more, piercing through the hustle and bustle of the street. A voice filled the air behind him, sharp and familiar, pulling him from the chaos of his thoughts. Jenna appeared, a frown etched on her face as she reached him. What's wrong? Jake could only glance at his phone again, contemplating the message that hinted at danger. Suddenly, everything felt monumental, far beyond the initial mockery of an outfit. As Jenna watched him closely, waiting for a response, Jake felt trapped between two worlds, ready to choose his next steps. She pressed, concern flooding her voice, shattering the external chaos, but deep down, he felt the storm brewing just beneath the surface. With the weight of the truth bearing down on him, Jake made the decision that would change everything. And with that choice, he felt the tension crackle in the air, urging him forward, into the unknown.